so you can see the screen.
Hi everyone, welcome to Winning Wednesday. Great to have so many of you with us tonight. As we end the summer with the last few great days of weather, it's really time to start thinking about that autumn breeding season. Lots of autumn calf cows calving at the moment, so hopefully in the next 40 minutes you'll hear some really great useful tips and interesting things to think about when you plan that autumn breeding season. So we've got three presenters for you tonight. We've got myself, Hugh Ratcliffe. I'm the General Manager of Genus in the UK.
I'm Hannah Goodwin and I'm the EMEA Dairy Brand Manager for Genus. To Hugh's point, we appreciate it's lovely weather tonight, so thank you for joining and we hope you learn and take lots away from today's webinar.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jess Sims. I'm the EMEA Beef Brand Manager, and thank you everybody for joining, and I look forward to talking to you about beef genetics later on in the webinar.
So just to sort of set the scene a little bit, obviously one of the biggest topics on UK dairy farmers at the moment is sex semen, and certainly when we start thinking about the autumn breeding season, we're seeing a huge interest in sex semen and our own sex semen, which is Sexcel, and it's growing very, very fast at the moment. So when you think about sex semen and Sexcel in a block calving system, you know there's a huge amount of advantages. And when we think back to when sex semen was launched, a lot of people would have used sex semen on that top end, the sort of younger cows, probably the maiden heifers, used conventional semen across the rest of the herd, and a little bit of beef semen on the lower end of the herd genetically, which you can see in the diagram at the top. Obviously, the benefit of Sexcel, and when you incorporate it into that breeding program, is that ability to select more aggressively those animals you want to breed from and increase that proportion that you built to beef. And it's all about making better genetic progress, which is all about making your cows better, faster. So by using more Sexcel, you know you're going to get more heifer calves at the first 3 weeks of the block, an even batch of heifer calves. And obviously, like I say, you can use more beef on dairy on that lower end of the herd and have less unwanted dairy bull calves. So that ability to use more Sexcel is going to give us lots of options this autumn, and we'll go through some of the different tools that we've got as we go through the webinar.
Hugh. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the fertility of Sexcel. Block calving herds, there's a little bit of nervousness to use sex semen because of that potential compromising of that really important type block. But the technology of sex semen has really improved since it was launched, our own brand Sexcel, 4 years ago. And conventional and Sexcel semen fertility aren't always the same. So we measure the fertility of every single sire that we market here at Genus through Sexcel. And we collect millions of inseminations from all over the world. So just under 100 countries, over 1,000 farms, and over 1.5 million inseminations. Sexcel is the most fertile sex semen in the industry today. So you can see from the graphs on the screen, when heifers are concerned, there's a 3.3% increase in conception rates with Sexcel versus the other technology, and that would be every other sex semen in the marketplace. And then when using it on cows, so those higher producing cows that you want that female heifer calf from, Sexcel has an increased 3.3% based on Sexcel versus the other technology. But not only that, sex semen is obviously produced and the fertility of that semen is here. And our andrology and research and development teams do everything they can from bull nutrition, animal welfare, as well as the state-of-the-art facilities to ensure that fertility doesn't drop. And that's exactly among the many reasons, which is why Sexcel is the best fertility product in the industry today. So we've got lots of customers we could have talked about today who've had really good results with sex semen in block calving systems, but I'm just going to pick two. So first of all, we have David Cotton. So David Cotton, Bridge End Farm, you may recognise as one of AHDB's strategic farmers. And David, like many other block calving farms, was really nervous about using Sexcel, just of that compromise potential of that really important type block. But David took the plunge and he used Sexcel on heifers and those higher performing cows within the herd with great success. So the herd averaged 62.5% conception rate across the whole herd, which works out at just over 1.5 straws conception rate per cow. So really, really strong results here. David as well looks at that autumn calving index, so that ACI index, and his herd ranked very high, so within the top 1% in the industry. So by choosing the autumn calving index, he's making genetic progress that's most relevant to his autumn block calving herd. From a beef perspective, those beef calves and those additional beef pregnancies are really going to contribute to that additional cash calf crop that we receive as a 13th milk check, as we sometimes like to call it. So from an autumn system now to a spring system, a little bit more of an extreme setting here. So Bill Ridge, who I visited last week in Pembrokeshire, farmed 700 cows in a very tight 6-week block. So again, you could argue even more nervousness here to use semen because we don't want to compromise that really tight 6-week block calving pattern. So Bill had used semen in the past, but hadn't quite achieved those results he really wanted to maintain that block. But this time, decided to take the plunge and use Sexcel on heifers and on cows, and is really happy with the results. So Bill worked really closely with the reproduction management specialist and also the breeding advisor to choose the right genetics. So we're really wanting here to drive production. So aiming for 6,000 litres and 600 kilos of milk solids. So that was taken into consideration with the sire selection, but also we want those pregnancies, and you can see that from the results. So Bill was really happy with an average of 61% across the whole herd, and heifers achieving 77%. So again, we're reducing those dairy bull calves, and the beef pregnancies from a herd of this scale will provide us with a huge cash calf crop, which is really important in driving that return on investment. So we're really excited to see how the calves and the pregnancy and the calving goes in the spring. But the next steps for Bill to further elevate the genetic progress is to use the Genus herd ranking tool. And Hugh's going to talk a little bit about that later. But again, really making more informed choices about which females to breed to dairy, which females to breed to beef. So we're making the most and really capitalising the potential and unlocking the potential of every female within the herd. So I'm now going to hand over to Hugh, who's going to talk a little bit more about the strategy in further detail.
Thanks, Hannah. So like Hannah says, we've got huge confidence in what Sexcel can do for autumn calving herds. And as a result of that, it creates a few different opportunities in dairy farm businesses. So we have a few tools that we've developed to really help farmers make optimum choices when using Sexcel. And critically, that is about, firstly, producing the right number of heifers for your business. So really predicting how many heifers we need in the business, how much semen do we need to purchase, how much sex and how much beef. And the tool that we use for that is called Heifer optimization. And this is the tool that you can see on the screen here. So what this allows is you can put in all the key information from your own dairy business. So how many cows, how many heifers you want, what your fertility historically is. And then you run through two different scenarios. So you can see under breeding strategies, there's two scenarios: the current, which is a pretty typical sort of scenario, and then the future, which is the plan for this breeding season. So in the current scenario here, you can see a pretty typical autumn calver, probably from the last year or two, using conventional semen in those maiden heifers for first and second service, then running a stock bull to sweep up, using no Sexcel in the cows, and breeding probably the bottom 40% to beef. And typically in some block calving herds, that beef would only be used after the first 4 weeks of serving. So there's no genetic selection going on. There's no selecting your better females to breed from. In this example, the future strategy is one where what we would advise with our autumn calving customers. So using Sexcel on that first service in your maiden heifers, and increasingly some customers are using Sexcel on the first 2 services. You could use conventional. In this case, we go back to conventional dairy and then mop up with either AI Angus or stock bulls. And then in this particular case, this is a herd of 350 cows. You can play with the numbers to see what percentage of the herd you need to breed to Sexcel to not use any dairy conventional semen in those cows. So you can see in the numbers there for this particular herd, 30% of the services in the cows was to be to Sexcel, and the remaining 70% into beef. So you're automatically gone from selecting your top sort of 60% cows in the current example to selecting your top 30%. It's a huge step change in terms of female selection. And you can see then at the bottom, it projects how many calves you've got in the grey box. They would be the beef calves. The red box would be the dairy bull calves. And the blue box is the dairy heifers, both in terms of numbers. And then you can also put a financial value. And in this particular case, by moving from using no Sexcel to 100% Sexcel, there's 16 grand extra revenue in calf crop from selling more beef calves and having less unwanted dairy calves. So, we all know the economics of sex semen, but this tool is a brilliant way of taking your own numbers from your own business and playing around with the numbers to work out the plan for this autumn. And this is something that any of your Genus advisors can very easily do. It's free. We don't charge you anything for it. We just ask you to buy all your business offers. So that's all part of the deal. So that's one tool, and then moving on to the other tool we developed, which is really exciting. It's completely unique in the industry. It's called our herd ranking tool. This has been developed by Dr. Chris Orritt, who's our PhD geneticist, and it's basically come about from block calving customers saying, "Okay, I'm going to start using some Sexcel. I want to start ranking my cows. I don't really know where to start." And particularly people that are milk recording, that data is really powerful and it gives you a great basis to start from. So what the herd ranking tool does, it takes your milk records. So if you're milk recording, this is the tool for you. So, we just ask for access to your milk records. And basically what we then do is we set the target number of heifers that you want to produce. And so we set the target of where we want to put that line in the sand in your herd as to what we breed to Sexcel and what we breed to beef. The key part of the herd ranking tool is it's custom made. That symbol in the bottom right hand corner there, it's a custom index. So what we do, we sit down with you, we try and understand what your breeding goals are, and we can put weightings on different traits to make the index for your business. So it could be a Hugh Ratcliffe index, if you want to call it. Because everyone's looking for slightly different things. Some people might be wanting more milk solids. Some people might be wanting more fertility. Some people might be wanting to reduce size or body weight. And by making your own index, you really are then selecting for the traits most important to you. So what we do, we take your data, we take your milk records, then we take that custom index and we rank your cows genetically from your best cow to your worst cow. And then we put that line at the genetic level you want to produce the number of replacements you need. So you get a very simple report and how to use it, which we'll talk about in a sec. The other great bit about the herd ranking tool is we also produce a mature equivalent milk solids for every cow that's created done a full lactation. So if you've got a cow that's done a full lactation, we will then calculate what her milk solids were. And then we'll put that on what's called a mature equivalent base. So that tells you, if she was a first lactation heifer, that predicts what should be as a mature cow. And that gives you a way of ranking cows against each other. So the herd ranking tool is taking lots of different pieces of information from your own herd and ranking it to the index is important to you. And now on that quote on the right-hand side, Chris Orritt, who developed the tool, he's done quite a lot of research into this. And he's calculated if you rank your cows, then it's worth potentially £36 more per cow in profitability. You know, going from no selection on the female side to selecting using a herd ranking tool, it's worth 36 quid a cow. It's really, really valuable potentially for any dairy business. And just to give you an example of what the mating sheet looks like, it's very, very straightforward and simple. Line number order here, lactation number, the sire of the cow, the index for your custom index. So it's just a number. Highest number is the best cow, lowest number is the worst cow. It gives you the mature equivalent milk solids for that cow, because that's just great to know. You know, it's always interesting to find those cows that perhaps you don't think too much of, but they really surprise you with the milk solids they produce. And then we'll simply say whether that cow warrants a dairy mating, a Sexcel mating, or whether we need to breed it to beef. And this is all about being able to use sex semen technology to make your herd better faster. And the herd ranking tool is very, very unique in doing that. So if anyone's got any interest in using the tool, again, contact your Genus advisor. All we need is access to the fertility, to your milk records. And of course, we do it for free as well. Over to you, Hannah.
Thank you, Hugh. So the herd ranking tool has proved really popular, and we've been inundated with lots of customers who've used this with great success. So it's fantastic. Customers are really seeing the benefits of ranking the herd. And I wanted to talk today about one customer I visited last month, where the herd ranking tool has really proved to shift that profitability in a spring and in an autumn system down in Somerset. So I visited Matthew and Coral Senior about a month ago, and very, very interesting system. So they currently milk 320 cows across both a spring and an autumn system. So you can see from the weeks there. So the autumn herd, so the spring herd was 9 weeks and the autumn 6. So respectively, quite tight blocks here. So they've used Sexcel in beef. And Matthew and Coral were very, very good at technology, very data savvy, and they really wanted to best utilise and maximise the data that they were having from their robots. So the system, the farm, implemented robots 2 years ago, and the information they're getting from the robots and the milk recording provides a fantastic platform to really use that information and unlock the potential of every female in the herd. So taking that emotion out of the breeding pattern and highlighting those females to breed to dairy and those females who are going to get a beef pregnancy. So again, from the herd ranking tool, what Matthew and Coral really liked was they could create their own bespoke index. So for them, the goal was to achieve 5,500 kilos of milk, so driving up that yield. So the index took that into consideration. So when they created their index, the females bred to Sexcel and those Heifer replacements would help them achieve this goal quicker. And that's what it's all about. So helping farmers use a Sexcel and beef strategy, but the tool really helps you to make the most informed decisions so you can basically get your goals a lot quicker by ranking your herd. Again, a simple tool to use, and they worked with key account manager Rob Bilton, who helped them with creating the index, using that data and putting it in a very simple and easy to use format. So I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Jessica Sims, who's going to talk to you about the Beef InFocus product line.
Thank you, Hannah. So now that we've heard from Hannah and Hugh in regards to Sexcel and the herd ranking tool, we can now discuss the opportunities using beef genetics, because essentially this is the part where we can make the most money. So here at Genus, we have a large variety of beef sires across many different breeds that have been created and purchased specifically with the dairy herd in mind. And we market them on what we call our Beef InFocus portfolio. And this is the brand for our beef genetics. So it's taken many years of data collection to produce the current beef sires within our portfolio to meet your breeding goals. And we have really achieved this through working with hundreds of herds right across the UK to collect data on the most financially relevant traits. So for example, calving ease, gestation length, calf quality, and calf survivability. And this data really enables us to promote the idea of a sexed and beef strategy, whereby we encourage the use of dairy genetics on the genetic elite animals within the herd and beef on the rest. This way you can produce the replacement females from the best animals and produce a higher value beef calf to maximise the value of every pregnancy. So within this strategy, we really encourage the use of beef from day one within the breeding programme. For example, using British Blue bulls to colour mark the calves before switching to a short gestation Angus at the end of the block to really tighten that calving period. And I'll point you to our Beef Advantage Index on the right of the screen, which is very similar to ACI or SCI in the dairy world, which allows you to select the beef sire, which is the most appropriate for your herd. And you can really have the confidence in using this index to select the bulls with the best traits for your herd. And it's particularly relevant to those of you who are selling your calves at 4 to 8 weeks old and really want to make sure your cow has the most profitable lactation, but also have a good quality beef calf to go off and market. Another, I suppose, really important point here is to say that we promote the use of British Blues, which is very different to Belgian Blues, which is what some of you may have used previously. These are a completely separate breed and are very much created specifically for use within the dairy herd, so selected heavily for calving ease and short gestation to make sure we're giving the cow the best chance of a profitable lactation. So you'll see us talk about British Blues as we move through this presentation. So if we flick on to the next slide, I'd like to share with you a testimonial from Tom Matthews, who is a farmer based in Oxfordshire. And he is a fantastic example of a herd who's used both Sexcel and Beef InFocus to achieve his breeding goals. So Tom operates a 230 cow grass-based autumn block calving herd. And in 2019, alongside his herd manager, Clive, they decided to incorporate Sexcel into their herd for the first time. And we're pleased to say they were very delighted with the results, achieving a 72% conception rate and didn't get any bull calves. So we were very pleased about this. So it meant that they could use the Sexcel on the best animals within their herd, which gave them a larger proportion of beef animals to inseminate across their herd. So they can really drive forward the profitability. So Tom said, and I'll quote his words, that this strategy helped to improve the profitability of his profit margins by having a higher value beef calf to go out and sell compared to a Holstein bull calf. So the main criteria that they look for when choosing a beef sire is they focus on calving ease and gestation, as cow welfare is essential for them. However, they also use the Beef Advantage Index to select for calf quality, because it's really important that they have a good calf to go off and sell at a couple of weeks old. So Tom, if you're on this webinar, thank you very much for letting us use you as an example. It's fantastic to share such good results in an autumn block calving herd. Now, as we move on, I'd really like to touch upon our new and improved New Era Profit Index. So this is a unique index which evaluates progeny performance from finishing to slaughter in a beef cross dairy system, and really ranks the most profitable genetics for British Blues and Angus. So as a dairy farmer, you might be sat there thinking, well, this information is irrelevant to me. But if you're finishing your own beef animals, perhaps due to TB reasons, or you sell them to one specific buyer, well then this index is very, very relevant to you. In a nutshell, we have invested very heavily into collecting data from many external sources to identify animals that are most profitable, efficient and sustainable, not just for you as a dairy farmer, but also right across the beef supply chain, so the processor and the retailer as well. So what it means is that we are able to identify animals with fewer days to slaughter, who have eaten less food throughout their lifetime, but also still maintain that high carcass yield, because ultimately we want to have the most positive impact on your bottom line as possible. So as you can see here in the hexagon graphic, this really illustrates the data that we collect on each individual sire to really build this index. So once we have enough data on each of the sires, we group them into categories. And this is known as Profit Max, Profit Plus, and Standard sires. And this is to show the additional profitability each sire can generate per head when compared against the average of the same breed. So Profit Plus are our most profitable, down to Standard sires, which are our least, but still are above the average of the population. So today I'm going to focus on the British Blue breed, and just in the essence of time, but it's very similar for that of the Angus. So currently we are seeing a difference of £100 profitability when you compare a British Blue Profit Max sire compared to a Standard sire. And this is very much because they have fewer days to slaughter, have consumed less feed, but also maintain that good carcass yield. But not only that, 87% of these animals are hitting the carcass specifications. So that's the real sweet spot in which you're most likely to receive bonuses when these animals go to the processors. And whilst doing this, they're eating 10% less feed and also having a reduced carbon footprint. And this is something that I'll come on to in the next slides. So on the next slide, I'd really like to share with you a little bit of a snapshot of the data that we're collecting. So Hannah, if you could please flick over to the next slide. This slide really illustrates the difference in feed efficiency between our Profit Max, Profit Plus and Standard sires. And as you will see here, the Profit Max sires are consuming significantly less feed and are growing at a faster rate when you compare them against the Plus and the Standard sires. In fact, they are consuming 10% less feed per kilogram of live weight when you compare this against your Standard sires. So when you look at this across a whole herd basis, this is a massive saving in feed. So this is something that we're really, really excited to share with you as customers, and also create opportunities to link up with beef rearers and finishers. But we don't stop here. And as we move on to the next slide, you will see that not only have the Profit Max sires consumed less feed, but they've also have a similar carcass weight and have done this over a much shorter time frame. So essentially, these animals are alive for a lot less time. In fact, when you compare them against animals from Standard sires, they've done this at 40 days sooner. And when you look at them across the whole population, they've achieved the desired carcass weight at 70 days sooner than the average population. So this is a huge benefit to those of you that are finishing your own animals or are selling them on to a specific beef finisher. And finally on this slide, before I hand back to Hugh, I'd really like to touch upon the sustainability factor, because this is something that we've been challenged upon for the whole agricultural industry and really must improve upon. So although we're at the very start of our journey in identifying the most profitable animals, we can see from the data that we've captured so far that we can see Profit Max sires have a reduced carbon footprint by 11% per kilogram of live weight compared to our Profit Plus and Standard sires. And this really allows us to show that we can make headway with genetics and show to the retailers and also the consumers that we are producing sustainable meat. So it's not about creating a calf for every home, but actually creating the correct calf for every home so that you can be sure you're producing a profitable, efficient and more sustainable animal for the whole beef supply chain. So I'll hand back over to Hannah and Hugh as they talk you through the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Jess. Not long now, guys, until we open up the Winning Wednesday offer. It's very elite, it's very exclusive, lots of great bulls at really brilliant prices that are coming up, and it's really easy to use. So just a couple more slides and then we'll talk a little bit more about that. So just sort of linking what Jess has talked about, you can see the amount of data we're now getting on the beef side, on beef genetics. And as more people move to more Sexcel and more beef, we know there's going to be more beef calves on the market. So that ability to differentiate yourself from everyone else selling calves by using high quality AI sires really does mean that from our point of view, we really see the trend towards a lot less stock bulls on farm, and particularly beef stock bulls. But that's obviously a challenge. So if you're running a block calving herd, I know from my own experience, when you are heat detecting and breeding such an important part of the year for 6, 8, 10 weeks, it's exhausting, it's very stressful, it's the busiest time of year. So I think one of the other things we just wanted to mention is the technology that's available to really help with that. And for us, that's breeder tag system. That's our automatic heat detection technology, which really aids customers to really drive better fertility on their dairy. So, when we think about block calving, that ability to put on a breeder tag on a cow at calving, really get those reference heats before you start mating, and then that ability to use AI for 12, 15 weeks if you want to, and get rid of stop bulls. I think a lot of block calving customers are talking to us about how that is their goal, to get rid of the stop bull, use a bit more AI beef, and really ensure that the quality of calves that they're selling are right at the top spec, as Jess has gone through. So where does breeder tag fit in? Well, it's a pedometer, so it's a front leg pedometer. It's like a Fitbit on the front leg of the cow, and what that means is it's hugely accurate. The heat detection accuracy on a pedometer is very, 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 very high, the best in the market. And you've got lots of different systems on the market, right? Everyone knows there's collars, there's ear tags, there's pedometers. They've all got slightly different features and benefits. But in terms of that block calving herd, that pedometer, that accuracy heat detection is absolutely critical. And on the flip side of that accuracy of health and welfare monitoring is very high. So lying and standing times are brilliant precursors to cows that are not well and sick, and really allows people and dairymen to react to those problems quickly. So we have seg gates that go with it. So brilliant again for block calving herd. Whack a load of breeder tags on there. Cows that are on heat will get segged in the morning. Genus skilled AI specialists will come in and serve them for you. And it really works as a great package. And the other beauty about breeder tags, again, is that long range aerial. So we stick an aerial on the main dairy, and we can go a long way line the site for grazing cows as well. So, it's a really brilliant system that a lot of block calvers are using. And we've seen sales over double in the last 12 months of breeder tag as the interest grows. Just one example here we've got to finish with is a testimonial from Merrins, Appledore Farm. And this is another block calving herd. Those guys, they run a spring and autumn calving system. 900 cows. So we booked breeder tags on their spring calving herd this spring, just gone. We just scanned the cows and got tremendous results. And as you can see from the testimonial here, they bred for 9 weeks, 90% in calf, which is beating their in-calf rate by 5% on the previous season, and 70% pregnant in the first 6 weeks. I mean, that is outstanding numbers on any system. And talking also about that stress of breeding time, the stresses of calving time and breeding time, and that's where technology comes in. That's where something like breeder tag is absolutely fantastic for reducing the burden on farm staff, making life easier, but also driving better pregnancy rates and better 6-week in calf rates, which ultimately is going to drive production. So, breeder tag is another thing that we can offer very flexible payment terms over 5 years. So you can just pay by month, split over 5 years. Really, when you break it down to that monthly fee, its investment is very minimal for any herd. So have a consider on that. And if anyone's interested in breeder tags, just give your local Genus ABS representative a call. Over to you, Hannah, I think.
Yes.
So now the bit you've all been waiting for, the offer, our Winning Wednesday offer. So this features more Sexcel and Beef InFocus bulls than ever before. So this is a 24-hour exclusive offer for those of you that have joined this evening. So it's just opened at 8 p.m. and will continue until 8 p.m. tomorrow evening before it closes. So the platform is really easy to use, so please make sure you pop over and have a look. It has been pinned in the comments section of this chat, but also if you have a look in your inbox, you'll find more information and a link directly to the platform. So there's great bulls at great prices on both Sexcel and Beef InFocus bulls. So please make sure you head over and have an explore of what's available to you. So Hannah, I'll hand over to you to lead on any questions, and then we'll go through them now if anybody has got them.
Thank you, Jess. Yes, so the most extensive range of bulls we've had on offer, so 14 Sexcel bulls and 6 beef bulls. So take advantage of the next 24 hours as this offer commences pretty well. It's commenced 6 minutes ago. So
would you like me to go through the questions then? Yeah, I can see that a couple have come in so far. So we've had one question in that says, I'm looking to use Irish Holstein Friesians this breeding season. Do you have any available in Sexcel?
So thanks for your question. We do. So in our current autumn block calving directory, we have 6 Irish Holstein Friesians available, all on Sexcel production, all with stock available, with 3 new additions to our portfolio this time. So we always try and make sure we bring in new bulls for something fresh for our customers. And you can see some of those available on our offer as well once you can access the link.
And I suppose just to add to that, really, you know, like Hannah says, we're buying bulls out of Ireland every year because we see there's a great source of high protein, high fertility genetics that suits the block calving segment in the UK. And on the other side of that, we're having to invest in more Sexcel machines at our stud in Ruthin in North Wales. So we just put 2 new machines in there recently. So just to make sure that we've got enough product for this autumn, just because, like we say, we know sales are growing. The benefit of this offer today is that you get a chance to reserve that stock. We know that you know, some bulls will run out in October, November. That's always the way. So trying to be early in your decisions and make those orders early, especially if they're Genus orders, will definitely ensure that you get stock of the bulls you want. So
Brilliant.
So I think that covers most of the questions that we've had in so far. But we are available to answer any more questions, whether you'd like to reach out to us directly in the comments section or over email, or even reach out to your local Genus representative. We're here to answer any questions over the next 24 hours in terms of the bulls that are available on the offer. But if you'd like to chat to us about something more that you've seen within this presentation, then please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So thank you everybody for joining. I hope you've enjoyed the content. And we look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you.